Hello, I'm James Wilson.
I'm Matthew Rowney.
And I'm Liv Bartley.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the review of The Return of Dr. Mysterio. Yet again, another review of a Stephen Moffat Christmas special.
Yeah. Justin Chatwin, James. Justin Chatwin.
Justin Chatwin. Justin Chatwin. Nardole.
Enjoy.
Nardole.
James.
Nardole.
Save it.
Nardole. Enjoy the review. Fucking Nardole! So then, ladies and gentlemen, here we are reviewing The Return of Dr. Mysterio. It is probably no shock to all of you that none of us really liked it.
No, not for the reason that I would have thought. The most frustrating thing for me about this is that it didn't feel like Doctor Who at all.
That was the same feeling.
That was the most disappointing part for
What's
me.
made me feel sick is that he's put all his time and effort into Series 10. Fair enough. That's okay. But it's the fact we've had no Doctor Who all year round. Nothing but Hellbent and Husband's Live for Song last year. And in them two episodes, and on its own were bad. But then he still manages to surprise us and shock it all, and creates this.
Yeah.
There's just no excuse.
There
There's
really
no
isn't.
excuse to how bad that is.
Yeah, very true. I mean, I'm sick of the excuse that people are giving to actually liking this episode. Fair enough if you actually liked the episode, but people are actually saying, oh, it's Christmas. You know, people want a simpler plot, simpler characters. They just want a bit of fun and something festive and simpler to put on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's what people are after. And fair enough, because that makes a lot of sense, because most of what's on television is fairly crap.
Yeah.
And there is, and I was just saying earlier, deviating a little bit away from the subject, is that there has been not one truly great Christmas movie. It's came to my attention, so that is actually a good point. No one is actually going to put their heart and soul into something that someone is only going to watch 1 month out of the year. And that is what someone actually said. Someone actually made the argument that you know, no one's going to watch it outside of it. And I just kept thinking, I'm sorry, but this is Doctor Who. I don't know a fan at all who only watches Doctor Who outside of inside of December. Think about it. Matthew, do you ever actually watch a Christmas special only in December?
I'll watch a good Christmas special out of December.
Yeah.
I don't
Russell's,
I don't
Exactly.
often go back and watch certain Christmas specials.
Moffat's I don't, but Russell's I do.
But you know, Whovians do marathons, and you can't always just fixate yourself on Christmas. And like, I agree with you, it's not an excuse for me.
Exactly, because
especially after we've had no Doctor Who for 12 months.
Yeah,
that's the big thing.
I mean, the thing is that to some extent, everyone still sees a Christmas special as a normal run-of-the-mill episode of Doctor Who. To some extent, we all still see a Christmas episode as just an episode, don't we?
Yeah.
But just one that airs on Christmas Day. You know, and
that's how it used to be in the Russell era.
Exactly. So I don't get people's reasoning there. Oh, it just needs to be fun. In fact, that is no excuse for weaker storytelling. Yes, you can make a rare clunker of an episode, one that's simpler. I like the fun plots. You know,
I do.
I'm one of those rare people that actually enjoyed Robots of Sherwood, and that was a fairly simple, some would call moronic plot. But I actually really enjoyed that episode for the fact that it was fun to watch. But the fact that we've only had this episode throughout all of 2016, and the last episode we had was also fun and stupid and simple plotted, I was really wanting an episode with the Doctor, something that would actually excite me, or maybe even just a bit of drama. I'm not asking for Oscar-worthy performances here. I'm just asking for just a bit of drama, maybe a bit of intensity, nothing really stupid, and we got that basically 2 episodes in a row.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but that excuse just doesn't fly with me. The whole "it's Christmas, it needs to be fun." That excuse does not fly with me here because, sorry, I noticed that's actually quite ironic considering superhero doesn't fly. Sorry, but yeah, I'm just sick of that excuse because it doesn't make sense in this particular instance.
Well, it's no coincidence that Russell's Christmas specials, the more contemporary, the more mature, more better balanced Christmas specials always, and I mean always, get chosen to be the more favoured ones. I mean, I've not seen a Christmas special ranking ever that has all of Moffat's above all of Russell's. A Christmas Carol might sneak in there, The Snowmen might sneak in there, but it's always Russell's that prevail, and the reason for that is because they are balanced, dramatic, enjoyable Doctor Who stories. And not only was this too stupid for my liking and too silly for my liking, it didn't feel like Doctor Who at all.
No.
And I don't think, and I've said this before about a few episodes and a few videos, I don't know what Doctor Who's identity is anymore. I don't know what it's aiming to do. I don't know who it's aimed at. I don't know if it's aimed at me anymore. And when an episode doesn't feel like Doctor Who at all, I don't know what to think. I've never felt like this before about an episode of Doctor Who, and going back to what you said about it not being on for 12 months, I was in a rut, a big enough rut after The Husbands of River Song, and I said I needed a good episode after 12 months. And if anything, I think this is worse than The Husbands of River Song.
Yeah.
Yes,
And that is not good news for me.
No, it is not.
Well, I was looking forward to see Peter Capaldi again. I was.
But that's just it.
I was looking forward to see him again.
Even the 12th Doctor, even Peter looks like he doesn't want to be there. Even he looks uncomfortable with the dialogue that he's saying. You can see the look on his face.
Well, that's one of the things that
None of the dialogue is funny.
you were most frustrated about the Doctor, weren't you?
He annoyed me. And the reason why, it was again, his funny lines were annoying me.
I actually have written down here the 12th Doctor becomes 11 for the first 10 minutes.
Peter Capaldi does not suit them funny lines. He doesn't.
And another point you made is that he was a side character.
He was a side character, and that makes me feel sick. The show is Doctor Who. The main character is the Doctor. I'm right, aren't I?
Yes.
He is the main character, so why the hell is he a side character?
And if you're going to put the Doctor to the side and give more screen time to other characters, side characters, at least make them an investable character.
Relatable.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry,
And good.
People may oppose what Liv said, and people have said that on the Facebook page with
Like
episodes
Blink.
like Blink and Flatline.
But they
and
worked. The reason why they worked was because of the story behind it. They worked.
and the characters that carried the episode in his place.
Like in Out of Blink, it was Sally Sparrow. She worked. She was good.
and
likeable.
Despite Love and Monsters being a poor episode, I liked the Linda group. And I'm sorry, but in this, no, we'll get on to Nardole.
Yeah.
But and we'll delve deeper into all of these characters. But when the problem I have with this episode is it spent way too much time revolving around Lucy and the Ghost's love relationship, and I didn't give a toss. I really didn't care less.
Exactly.
And they spent a good half of this episode focusing on that, and that really didn't help. Should we just delve in deep to this episode from start to finish?
Well, what I have written down here is that the very, very beginning, the opening comic book style transition into the episode, I really rather enjoyed. I thought that was a nice touch, and it really made the whole superhero aspect of it and the whole comic book inspired part of it really pop for me. That looked really, really good, and although the New York setting isn't as dominant as it was in episodes like Angels Take Manhattan and stuff like that, so maybe Moffat had that in in mind. Maybe he just thought it's based in New York, but fans have got a fair amount of idea of what New York looks like, so there's no need to go sightseeing really and
I don't
seeing
think
all
it had
sorts.
to be set in New York.
No, New York didn't at all. But I think New York was more. He felt. I think that was Stephen's way of just basically pandering to where superheroes seem to be mainly based.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, New York. Avengers, basically, are based in New York. So New York seems to be that place where superheroes go and live and pretty much save the day most of the time. So New York was mostly to serve the whole superhero aspect. And so yeah, when the Doctor was swinging upside down at young Grant's window, I just thought, wow, that is just way too 11th Doctor for my liking. That is going right back to Matt Smith. But Stephen Moffat was pretty much thinking that's what Matt'd say and writing that down and thinking no one would notice. Like Liv said, this is the type of humour that the 12th Doctor does not suit. The 12th Doctor, people might call it character development, and I was blinded last year and I thought that maybe that might have been character development as well. You know, that the 12th Doctor is getting a bit funnier, gaining a bit more of a laugh, and, you know, he's sort of changing a little bit.
Lightening
And
up,
he's,
a bit like Nine did.
Yeah, he's lightening up a little bit, like Nine did towards the end of his run. You're right.
I know, but with 9, it worked. It worked with
Yeah, it had a sort of subtlety. 9 was still intense, and he still had his serious moments, but he had those sort of like funny moments in there, like his banter with Captain Jack in Boomtown. The Ninth Doctor sort of gained some sort of banter, and there was a trio thing going on with Rose Tyler and Captain Jack, and that's what I loved. But with 12, he seems to be sort of just talking stupid, and I'm sorry, but for the first 10 minutes from the beginning of the episode up until up until when the title sequence opens, he is pretty much 11th Doctor. Like, those are the sort of crap that he would come out with.
Well, I've got to say, I liked the first 15-20 minutes.
I liked the first 15 minutes.
I did, and I have a feeling I liked them much more than you did, and the reason for that is because I thought the chemistry between, and this again is kind of harkening back to when you said 9 was good because of the characters he had around him, and I think the humour plays a big part in that, and the chemistry between 12 and young Grant in the start I thought was pretty nice. I thought it was quite nice, it was light-hearted, and I found, and I know you'll get onto his superhero powers, but I found the way he got his superhero powers to be quite sweet, quite nice. He's a kid.
It worked.
It was a mistake, but it was a mistake I could see a kid making, and I liked the chemistry between them in the first 15 to 20 minutes because it felt like that sort of chemistry works with a child. But then later on in the episode, when 12 is still doing the same sort of chemistry with Nardole, that's when I look at 12 and think, them words should never be coming out of his mouth.
No.
And you look back to the Rebel we had in Series 8, and it just frustrates me ever more.
Yeah.
He's still in the outfit, he still has the look, but the words coming out of his mouth are just not 12.
Yeah.
The point I'm going to make here is that every time we seem to see Peter Capaldi, he's always bloody different. Series 8, Rebel, the Rebel Doctor. Series 9, the Rocker. And now in this Christmas special, I want to say, oh, he's a comedian. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean,
It don't work.
you agree with me when you said that the first 20 minutes we enjoyed,
I like that.
and they were the only time episode I really enjoyed, but
The biggest part I liked about that was the brains. They were scary. I liked them. And there was this creepy, and there was this creepiness about them. I was like, okay,
I agree,
this is fine. This is good.
the best part about the episode, I thought, were the brains.
Yeah.
It
It was some sort of connection, a needless connection, I suppose you could say, between the Husbands of River Song and like the fact that Husbands was the most recent episode. Nardole wasn't enough to have that connection between Husbands and why did Harmony Shoal have to? Because Harmony Shoal appeared in Husbands of River Song briefly at the end. There was that really weird bald guy who could pretty much crack his head open like an egg.
I love that.
I loved it.
I thought that was dead creepy and dead scary, and I don't want to claim that this is a rip-off or anything, but doesn't that idea remind you of the Slitheen?
I can see where you're coming from.
Like, basically, they are killing humans and taking their bodies.
I can see where you're coming from, and I didn't have a problem with it being.
I would have loved it if 12 actually made that connection. I'd have loved it if 12 actually made that connection. If he'd have said, "Your alien's zipped inside human skin." Where have I heard that one before? Or something like that. Like he's trying to put the connection together, a bit like Deep Breath, trying to make the connection with the droids in Girl in the Fireplace. And I thought that'd be a good touch. It's just, to me, I don't know. It felt like a bit of a, I don't know. It felt like everyone is pretty much going to go, "Oh my god, what a scary villain. Stephen Moffat's so clever." It's basically been done before.
I can see where you're coming from. I mean, I like the fact that they were only in last year's special briefly, and then they've kind of developed more into this one. And I thought their motives, obviously taking over every capital city, taking over important,
we'll get
political
to that,
figures. And I thought that motive was very good. I thought that was something different, and I kind of got behind that.
Yeah.
And they, the villains were one of the only few things I was invested in, but they just weren't in it enough. And I think after that brilliant scene where I'm going to call him Alex Hunter because the coloured guy who was in it.
Yeah.
He's in FIFA. I'm a massive FIFA player. James probably won't know, but yeah, I'm going to call him Alex Hunter. But yeah, I thought when his brain was swapped, I thought that was an amazing scene.
I love that.
Seeing Harmony Show's head be distorted and the brains going in, that was fantastic. But then after that, that's when the episode turned. It went from Doctor Who to a superhero silly show with the Doctor in it.
Yeah.
I think after the 20-minute mark, it wasn't Doctor Who anymore because the show changed into something completely different and the Doctor was just in the background.
It lost its impact after that, sir. It lost its impact. Right after that first 15 to 20 minutes, I got bored. Something dropped. It was the same thing happening, focusing on the ghost. It didn't work.
Yeah.
It was boring.
Yeah, well, I mean, what did we think of the ghost, despite him being, sadly, the dominant part of the episode? What did you guys actually think of the ghost? Because once again, it might just be me, but I, again, think that Justin Chatwin is an incredibly dull, boring actor.
I have to agree.
Seriously, he just doesn't give any life into the dialogue.
As I was watching him act, and it never was in my head saying, "Friggin' hell, James was bloody right." The guy can't act for shit. He can't act. He was dull, and I was not invested in him, and he was so boring.
I mean,
every time he was saying something, I was like, "End it now! End it!"
Yeah. I mean, there seemed to be two parts of him. There seemed to be one where he was dull and boring. I don't know whether that was just where he was meant to be the superhero, changing his voice a bit, trying to look a bit bravado, and then he was trying to be bumblish and silly, like a hell of a lot like Superman and Clark Kent. That he tries to make the difference there, but it seems that the actor can't really seem to find a mediation between Hamish, Panto-esque kind of acting and dull, boring, can't say any dialogue without sounding like he's in a coma kind of acting. And I don't know, it's just, for me, this actor is still incredibly terrible casting for me.
Well, let's be honest, he was a Superman Batman ripoff. I mean, when he became the Ghost, his voice deepened. Batman. The dark colours did come across a bit like Batman, and of course the whole him having floppy hair, glasses, being bumbly, that's Clark Kent. I mean, it was screaming out Clark Kent to me.
Okay, I'm going to repeat something that I believe I said in our Robot of Sherwood review years back, and what I think it's the same sort of principle. Yeah, the Doctor is faced with Robin Hood. So Robin Hood can't deviate away from the classic stereotypical way that Robin Hood is.
Yes.
And I think, in all fairness to you, I think it's the same here. I don't think that the superhero can deviate away from the stereotypical, cliched, what we know superheroes to be. And I think that the stereotypical Superman, Batman, bravado, deep voice thing, I think that just comes hand in hand with the whole superhero thing. So I think that's kind of what he had to do to kind of make the whole superhero thing work.
And that's a problem with having him in it as much as they did. I mean, the amount of times they were swapping between Grant and the Ghost was ridiculous. I mean, I'll say it again. After we were introduced to him and Lucy, the episode just dropped. I mean, it dragged to a pace that I could hardly bear.
I wanted to switch off after half an hour. I wanted to switch off.
The Doctor went in the background and they focused on, obviously Grant fancied Lucy, but then Lucy fancied the Ghost, and it was this love triangle that we were meant to care about. But they just they spent too much time on that.
Yeah.
They spent way too much time on two characters that I didn't feel were developed enough for me to care.
And that didn't feel like Doctor Who to me. That didn't feel like
Doctor Who. No, it didn't feel like Doctor Who.
Doctor Who was not about romance. So why halfway through the episode focus on romance? It don't make sense.
Well, the Doctor just went. Let me ask you this question, and I asked Liv this question when we did our reaction on the Facebook page. What did the Doctor do in that first half hour?
Apparently, I think someone commented and might have actually debunked my whole thought, because I said the same thing, that the Doctor didn't really do anything. On the surface, maybe it seems like he was doing something, but I don't apparently, because the Doctor did uncover their plan. I think that's what he did. He went to he uncovered their plan
by giving them a burger.
Yeah, but actually, I don't think he did uncover their plan, because he went to that ship that was hovering above the Earth, and the villain pretty much told him what the plan was. Or did the Doctor work it out? I don't know. I've really only seen it the first time.
I just think Capaldi never had the impact. And that's not down to him, because every time Capaldi is on screen, you do automatically look at him, focus on him.
Yeah.
He just wasn't in it enough.
I don't know who fault that is. Bloody Stephen Moffat.
And, have we got anything else to say regarding 12? I mean, normally we have a lot to speak about, but what else is there to say about him?
There's really nothing really to say about him.
Shame. Oh, I was dying to see 12 again. I was excited to
Do you see what I mean?
One character we've not seen for a year, and he was hardly in it.
Do you see why? Do you see why that's why it should have been in the preview? That what I said in the preview, that it should have just been a stripped back story. Doctor meets companion. That's what it needed to be.
Yeah.
And it deviated away from that. You know what I think this episode is? And I think this is the epitome of a filler. Because I heard somewhere, I don't know where, but I heard from someone that this episode was written after Series 10 and was filming either coincided with Series 10, apparently. I heard somewhere. And to be honest, whether that's true or not, that kind of makes sense with how this episode is.
You could tell.
That's the BBC's fault then.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to what I was saying to you before. It's almost as if the BBC thought, oh, we'll write whatever we want. It can be as bad as whatever. They'll watch it because it's Doctor Who and they've not had it in a year. So you know what, Moffat? Just throw something together, chuck it out there, it'll get views, because all we care about is viewing figures.
I think this was Stephen Moffat's way of just his way of his bad way, really, of kind of putting something out there to keep us going until March, April, when Series 10 comes out.
I'd have rather not had this episode at all.
Exactly. I would have rather waited.
Yeah.
Seriously, I would have rather us all waited until March, April next year. I would have rather had no Doctor Who at all this year.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to have an episode that's just to sustain us, just a filler, then I don't want that episode at all.
Exactly.
It needs to be a meaningful story. And yeah, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about about the plot, the motive of the villain. That what they were going to do was that the ship was in fact an atom bomb. It was going to crash into New York and kind of obliterate the whole planet. And what were and then Harmony Shoal kind of opens its doors to all the devastated, feared world leaders, and so that Harmony Shoal can then take over the world leaders' bodies. That seems a little bit convoluted of a plan, don't you think? I mean, Harmony Shoal could just infiltrate their way into the world leaders' countries and their places of residence and their palaces and stuff like that, and just kind of take them over that way, just sort of infiltrate. That's what they've been doing all along. Harmony Shoal have been infiltrating their way into things, and so that plot just seems incredibly convoluted to me.
It was quick and simple, and I think it was...
Sorry to interrupt you again. I think they wanted an excuse for the superhero to save the day.
Something's falling to Earth in a very... it's very heavy, it's very large. Who's going to save it? Oh, the superhero's going to catch it like Superman.
Yeah.
And it was very quick, and it was very simple, and it was very isolated. I mean, they clearly didn't have the amount of time to make it a global threat. And I think if they did make it a global threat, it might have made the villains even more of a threat. But unfortunately, because it wasn't, then it was convoluted.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the motives, but again, was the motive too good for a 60-minute one-part story? I don't know.
Yeah. It's just the villains for me. Sorry, going back to the villains. It's just I thought that they were. I loved Dr. Sim. I love the actor who plays him. I think he looks sinister enough to play a Bond villain. I hope that they actually have common sense to cast him, because he looks perfect as a villain. Absolutely brilliant. And so let's go on to Nardole. Shall we?
I think he's the one person we've not spoke of yet.
Yeah. We've talked enough about Nardole, so I think we should really just put the least amount of talking time into Nardole, because we've talked enough about him in the past. But we've got to talk about what he does in the episode.
Nothing.
That's what I was about to say.
First, I want to say the reasoning to why Nardole was back was pure crap. Because he was lonely.
Yeah.
That doesn't wash with me.
A lot of people have said that they loved that idea, that the Doctor had spent 24 years on Darillium with River Song before she had to go back to the library with the 10th Doctor and die. And after that happened, the Doctor actually had to say goodbye to River Song forever. So he kind of felt lonely, so he put Nardole back onto his body. Seriously, that desperate for companionship, you just pick Nardole. I'm sorry, but where does Nardole's sudden wise attitude come from? Suddenly, Nardole knows the Doctor intimately and closely. I mean, were they getting to know each other on those 24 years in Darillium? In fact, I scratch that question. I don't even care if they got to know each other for 24 years on Darillium, because from an audience standpoint, from someone who's just watching the episode, who The Husbands of River Song was only the previous episode, there's no closeness between the Doctor and Nardole. A closeness, a sudden wiseness with Nardole has just suddenly been forged out of nowhere. The last time when we met Nardole, he was a funny bald man that made funny faces and made funny noises and just went, oh no, and had his head chopped off. That he was the funny guy. And now all of a sudden, he actually has that attitude that a companion would have with the Doctor. Like, say, a companion is with the Doctor for, 3 years. That's the attitude he's had, that he knows the Doctor intimately.
Especially with the speech he gave at the end.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm sorry, but that is just incredibly forced. Forcing a relationship and a closeness between two characters, that's lazy.
Well,
that is incredibly lazy.
I said that seeing them two together would give us a good indication of what we're to get in Series 10. And, talking a little bit outside of this episode itself, it's not gave me confidence. No. In fact, it shattered any small bit of confidence I had in Nardole being in Series 10, because they just don't go together. They do not go together. He'd have been perfect for a Matt Smith sort of Doctor, but for Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor, him and Nardole do just not fit.
No.
The complete opposites.
And complete opposites do... They work at times. They really do work. But I'm sorry, but you're kind of really saying... I mean, I mean, a lot of people would say that we didn't have enough screen time with Nardole to even know if he was wise. But I'm sorry, but all of a sudden he is wise and he's saying wise words and stuff like that. And in Husbands, he was, most of his stuff in Husbands was physical comedy. A lot of the dialogue wasn't even there on screen. It was mostly Matt Lucas pulling faces.
Yeah.
But now, I'm sorry, but again, it just seems really forced.
I thought they'd justify why he'd be in Series 10 in this episode, and they didn't. I'm still sat here wondering why 12's really going to take him on all them adventures. I mean, surely, when he meets Bill, he's not... Well, if he's to justify his loneliness, he's met Nardole, so why would he want to meet Bill if he's happy with Nardole? It just doesn't... I don't get it.
No.
And back into this episode itself, Nardole did absolutely nothing.
But
Why?
dress up
Yeah.
in a silly costume that wasn't explained.
Why couldn't it have just been the Doctor? You know, like when the 11th Doctor met Craig Owens and, what was her name, Sam? Was it Sam or Sally?
I don't know.
His lover. Just when the 11th Doctor met them two. That was nice. And it might have been better if 12 had just met these two. But Nardole being there, he literally was pointless. And I know Liv's just enjoyed the Phantom Menace, but I'm going to make a joke about it here. He was the Jar Jar Binks of this. He had no impact.
Yeah.
No impact to the plot in this.
Exactly. He had no impact to the plot. And, you know, it was what I feared with Nardole. Yes. It's what I feared with Nardole would happen. I even guess what the reason would be that the Doctor just stitched his head back onto his body.
Yeah.
You know, and, it's just, Nardole, was just totally not needed.
I was just getting more and more and more frustrated every time I was seeing him on screen. I was like, why is he on there? Fumbling around in the background with these silly toys in that stupid costume.
Yeah.
What was he doing in the episode? It didn't work.
And guess what says something? He was the funniest part about last year's Christmas special.
He wasn't this time.
He never made me laugh once in this one.
No.
Well, nothing made me laugh about that.
No.
Nothing.
The comedy they gave 12 again was just silly.
I'm sick. I am sick of them changing 12 around. Backwards and forwards. I've had enough.
Is his Doctor beyond saving point now? With potentially one series to go.
Yeah.
And maybe a bit of Chibnall. Is he beyond becoming one of the greats again?
Every time.
James, you said after Series 9, after Series 8, I don't know about after Series 9, that 12 was your favourite Doctor.
Where is he now?
Of all time. After this, is he still your favourite Doctor of all time?
Well, the third Doctor was a close second anyway, but yeah, I think John Pertwee's pretty much taken him over. But that was going to happen anyway. I'm still enjoying Peter Capaldi to some extent, but I do miss the Series 8 days.
Every time I watch Capaldi, he's falling further and further away from my favourite Doctors. And that is such a goddamn freaking shame.
I agree, because he's probably the best actor we've had.
Yeah.
He makes such a good Doctor in himself. He is the Doctor. Just looking at him, he is the Doctor. But, yet again, changing his character around too much.
Here's a question. There's been loads of rumblings that, and I've seen this from many, merchandise reviews channel, like the Horse Productions, the amount of products they're bringing out for Doctor Who in recent years has plummeted. And a lot of people are saying that because 12 is an older man, they can't put his face on lunchboxes. They can't make as many action figures because they're not selling as well. So do you think Stephen Moffat has lightened up his Doctor to make him more child-friendly, to drive more revenue in merchandise? Because that has been a lot lower than it was in the Max.
That does make sense.
That pressure is what's changing.
That makes a hell of a lot of sense, because during Series 8, a lot of people complained that it went too far in the serious direction. Stephen Moffat had gave the when casting Peter Capaldi, didn't he say at the very beginning that he was going to be a much more stripped back Doctor? He was going to be much more serious, a lot more brooding, and now all that has changed. I think this is a hell of a lot to do with the BBC. I think the BBC have said, right, Peter Capaldi just isn't making Doctor Who enough money. He is not making us enough money. I mean, yes,
not his fault.
And it's not his fault. He is a fantastic Doctor. He is a great Doctor. But like you said, marketing isn't great with him. He's not gonna. People aren't going to buy lunchboxes. People aren't going to buy posters, and I think it's pretty much our age range or older that are actually buying the stuff. And this is not us outing any 11 to 14-year-olds that are actually loving Peter's Doctor. Good on you if you are.
Definitely.
But from a business standpoint, that makes sense. What you've just said.
Well,
I never thought of that before.
Just compare the Series 8 poster. Him stood with Clara. He had his hands in his pockets and he looked very angry.
Yeah.
And as the years have gone on, the Sonics came out. And it's been pointed a lot more.
Yeah.
Because the Sonics probably haven't been selling as much.
Yeah.
And maybe the 11th Doctor Sonic wasn't selling as much, so they've gave him his own. The Sonic sunglasses, again, they're adding a gimmick. They're adding something they can buy.
So-
Because the 12th Doctor was so stripped back, he was literally just a suit.
Yeah.
And
Kids aren't going to buy a suit, but because the Doctor suddenly wears sunglasses and because he has a guitar, that's going to then drive that.
Yeah.
So that's why he's went from being stripped back to having all these gimmicky sort of sides added to him, because they're desperate to make him likeable to the younger audience. And I can see that from a business standpoint.
I'm not saying that is actually what going on. I'm not saying that I'm sure that that's what's went on.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe Peter, maybe all of these were actually his own decisions, and Peter's these decisions just haven't sat well with us. But that does make sense.
Yeah.
That the BBC have thought, right, okay, we need to lighten up this Doctor because Series 8 was a bit darker. A hell of a lot of people were complaining of the darker plotline, especially the Don't Cremate Me plotline. And so I think this was their way of just going, right, okay, Stephen, you need to lighten it up a bit. And then maybe Stephen, deep down, kind of just... Maybe at first... Okay, we've demonised Stephen Moffat a hell of a lot, but I'm going to demonise the BBC for once. Maybe Stephen did actually just go, well, I kind of spent 4 years kind of being light and funny with the 11th Doctor. This time around, it doesn't really suit a 55-year-old man.
Yeah.
And then...
Let's give the older fans something.
Yeah, let's give the older fans something
We had
to
4
enjoy.
years, which the younger demographic would have loved.
Exactly. And so I think the BBC just went, no, the 12th Doctor is not making us money. So we need to change that.
Why is it with TV shows and movies, it's always about money? It makes
Because it's
me
a
sick.
business. Because it's a business, Liv.
It's always about money.
Yeah.
Because it's a business. That's why Hollywood constantly make remakes. Sorry, we are deviating a hell of a lot away from this, but I'm saying this anyway. This is why Hollywood make remakes. This is why Hollywood reboot everything. Because
They know what people like.
They know what people like. They make remakes because it's not their fault, because we're the ones stupid enough to still watch it. Not us in particular, but the general demographic, the general audience, they will go out and watch it.
It's a guaranteed cash cow.
It's a guaranteed cash cow, exactly.
And
that's why they are thinking from a business perspective. They will bring out a film, and if that film makes a hell of a lot of box office takings, then they will pretty much do the same thing and milk the hell out of that cash cow. Sorry, I loved that analogy there, more than I should have done. But yeah, anyway, sorry, getting back to basics. Yeah, the BBC, I think they have a big hand in how Peter's
Doctor has developed.
tenure has developed.
So to sum up the last 15 minutes, 12's become more lighthearted and we don't like it.
Yes.
Yeah. The rest of the episode, it didn't feel like Doctor Who. And I've put my opinion across on this, so I want to hear yours. It basically was just Lucy and the Ghost trying to, reveal each other's identity and basically reveal. It's like the Ghost was so close to revealing himself as Grant, and we were all supposed to be like, oh no, he's going to reveal. Just reveal yourself. Kiss at the end. I didn't care.
No.
Did either of you care about that love story? And what did it do for your pacing of the episode and your enjoyment of the episode, Liv?
Nothing.
In fact, it actually may have kind of worsened the pace for the episode. The pacing was slow because of them.
They focused too much on it. They prioritised it.
It was all about the Ghost. Right, here's a question for you guys. Lucy, did you enjoy her? Because because in the first 15 minutes, and she was this reporter investigating, I liked that.
Yeah.
But then, all of a sudden, she's fancying somebody. What?
I thought the investigator thing was good, and I thought they were going to have that for the majority of the
I
episode.
did.
It ended up not being in it as much,
No.
and in the end, she just became a girl.
Can
who
I
was
admit
just
something?
slathering
Can I
over
admit
the
something?
ghost.
I really liked Lucy questioning the Doctor.
Yeah.
I
liked
loved
that.
that scene.
I like
What
that.
an interrogation!
Yeah.
scene. The Doctor was sat there as to think, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that
am
side
not.
of it.
I am not spoke to like this quite often. He was thinking, and Lucy, I think I'd much prefer as a companion. I'd like to see
Yes.
her return.
That side of her return, not the
Yeah.
floppy side that
No.
was falling
No.
head over
Yes.
heels for the ghost.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the ending where the Doctor is kind of leaving and he says those, I suppose, inspiring words like "things end, but also things start again as well." So just be happy.
Maybe that was Moffat speaking to his audience. I'm leaving soon. Just
Thank
be happy.
God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled.
My
Yeah.
year's
I'm
ending.
thrilled.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled he's leaving.
I think that may have been a fourth wall break to some extent. And then Nardole comes out with
See,
cool,
I-
wise, inspiring words.
I
and-
believe when the Doctor was saying that, I was sat there thinking, "That's nice. I believe you, Doctor. That's great.
I
Thank
like
you for
that.
that message." And then Nardole came over and started saying it, and I just went, "Shut up! Stop trying to be
Like
serious.
Nardole.
What are you doing with it? What are you even doing here?"
Every time I think of the episode, I think about bloody Nardole. It's driving me insane. All I see is him. All I see is him in my head, playing with a toy and then dressed up in that stupid outfit.
He is a ridiculous character. And you know what? I think Nardole may be the main reason why we're kind of down on Series 10.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
So I don't want to delve into Series 10 too much.
Because that
but-
trailer was terrific.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that trailer was
Bill.
terrific. And scarce of any Nardole, which I'm glad about.
That's why it was terrific.
Yeah. Because I'm glad that it was sort of prioritising Bill. And you know what? I really love the look of Bill.
I do.
Everyone's like, she's got elements of Rose. Why? Because chips are mentioned?
I don't think she's got elements of Rose. Like
She has no elements of Rose.
Some are saying she's too much like Ace. Why can't she be a little bit like Ace?
Exactly. Why not have that classic element? In terms of fashion sense and how she looked, Clara had a classic element to her in the beginning, anyway.
Yeah.
So there was a classic element, and why not have that classic element? Why not have that sort of going towards like the classic era a little bit? Even though she's a modern character, there are those kind of like hipster girls who are kind of who are very much influenced, both fashion sense or music or films or whatever or personality. They're kind of influenced by the past, So I think that might be quite cool. I kind of like the idea of her being that wide-eyed, full of wonder kind of character.
Yeah, I thought Bill was. She looks brilliant.
Yeah.
And the only thing that is down on me on Series 10's Nardole.
Yes.
Everything else I'm actually quite optimistic about.
Yeah.
Which I never thought I'd say before this Christmas special. The Christmas special did nothing for my excitement.
No.
But-
the trailer probably made me more excited.
Yeah.
That 30 seconds did more for me than this whole hour.
Yes.
But at least the good news is it's looking like Matt Lucas isn't in all of Series 10. So that's at least an upside, I suppose.
It is an upside.
I guarantee, I am certain, absolutely certain, that Series 10 isn't going to be a complete and total flop. Because be honest with yourselves.
It can't be.
Besides Sleep No More and Hellbent, Series 9 was good, wasn't
And
it?
the girl who died in the one who lived.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't like them too much.
Yeah. Well,
2/3 of the series was very good.
Series 9 was actually quite a strong one. Thinking positively.
It's just the most important episode in that series. Was
It
the
is.
worst episode in that series. That's
And
that's the fact.
Series 10, Stephen Moffat isn't going to be writing all of it.
No.
Thank God.
I think with Series 9, what disappointed me is the one episode I loved, Face of Raven, got tarnished by the ending.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
And that-
Going completely away from that. Yeah.
And that and that is why Series 9 always leaves me on a downer with that ending.
Adana was still on.
Yes.
I think we've covered everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've delved into many other subjects.
Yeah.
Should we just give a mini conclusion
Yes.
and a rating, because we don't know each other's ratings?
No.
And you can go first.
I thought you were going to go
No,
first.
you can go first.
Okay, I'll go first. For 20 minutes, I was really enjoying the return of Dr. Mysterio, and it was setting up really well, but then after 20 minutes, they prioritised something I didn't care about, and it went from being a Doctor Who episode with a superhero in it to being a superhero episode with a Doctor in it. And the last 40 minutes, I don't think the villains were in it enough. I think the pacing slowed down to the point where I couldn't bear watching it. It was jarring. The story went round in circles. Nardole irritated me, didn't have to be in it. The Doctor got pushed into the background. And it focused too much on Lucy and Grant and the Ghost, which I couldn't have given a toss about. And the ending just seemed a bit quick. So, I want to be generous. I really want to be generous. Oh, I'm going to give it a 4.
Wow.
I was going to give it a 5. I was really going to be generous. I was thinking that exact thing you said. It's a Christmas special. I'll give it a 5. But then I thought, no, it's a Doctor Who episode.
It is.
I'm giving it a 4.
Yeah.
Liv.
I like the first bit of it. Well, it's how the ghost became the ghost with the pebble. I like that. And the brain swapping people, I love them. I wanted to see more of them.
Yeah.
Lucy in the first bit, I like. I like that reporter side to her, the way, the way she spoke up to the Doctor. I liked it, but the one thing that still bugs me is that the main character in this episode is the Doctor, and he was hardly in it. Nardole annoyed the hell out of me, and the Ghost, Justin Chatwin, can't act for shit. I'm rating it a 3.
A 3.
It bored the hell out of me.
Anything below a 5 I find a bit brutal.
But a 3.
For me, a lot was riding on this episode for me. It needed to be good because it had, and I'm sorry, but the excuse that it's Christmas and the excuse that it's the only episode we've had this year, so love it anyway, just love what you've been given because it's the only one you've had, and a lot of fans would say, why don't you be grateful for what you've been given because it's the only episode you've had this year? I'm sorry, but the fact that it is the only episode we've had this year should have the opposite effect.
Yep.
It should have the effect on the writer that Stephen Moffat should have had the incentive to go, right, it's the first episode, it's the only episode that they've had in 2016. I should be giving them something truly great. I should seriously deviate from the stupid plot and the stupid characters and actually give them something that's actually worth watching. And he didn't. The superhero thing ended up coming across to me as cringeworthy and a little bit laughable, but I think that was the point, really. And Nardole had nothing to do. The Doctor, I felt, had really nothing to do. And it had a hollow plot and a slow ass pacing. So I'm going to give this a 4.
Yeah. Doctor Who needed to come back with a bang, and it came back with a whimper for me. And the biggest disappointment was it just didn't feel like Doctor Who.
No.
I sat there and I didn't feel like I was watching an episode of Doctor Who.
I was bored.
And I don't know what Doctor Who is anymore. Series 10 it simply has to make me love the show again.
Thinking now is that I am really, really, really worried about this show.
I'm not worried about the show, I'm worried about myself and the show. Because, as we were saying earlier, they seem to be wanting to go back towards the child demographic, which is bearable, of course, because we did enjoy a lot of Matt's tenure. We've enjoyed a lot of Peter's tenure. But they're doing things that just...
See, Stephen... this is something that I find admirable, and this is going back to what you said before. I think Stephen dared with Series 8 to actually do something for the older fans.
And that's why I like Series 8,
with Series 8. I think he dared to do something for those fans that are over 16. I think he paid for that by basically viewers dropping, and also the BBC just basically saying to him, right, it needs to be a bit more light-hearted, you went a bit too serious, and personally, I don't think he went too serious. I think we were due an era for the older fans. I'm not saying alienate the kiddies, I'm not saying that at all, but just something for the older fans. Something with more drama, something with more meat on it, and this wasn't. In fact, this was basically a bone. This was a bone where the meat was already chewed off. So yeah, this episode was a huge disappointment. Actually, no, not really a disappointment, because I already saw it coming that this was going to be bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I don't know. They're aiming at a very low demographic, and these Christmas specials, let's be honest, they're just never going to be for us.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a simple fact. For older fans like ourselves, these episodes are never going to be for us.
Yeah, exactly. So then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry that this had to be a negative one. Actually, I'm not sorry, because this channel, as Matthew had put to me earlier,
I told him
this channel is built on honesty, and it is built on controversial thinking, I suppose you could say. So if you do agree with us, great, express it in the comment section. If you don't agree with us, you'll most likely put it in the comment section whether we like it or not.
Okay.
So then, guys, thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely new year. Thank you for watching our review of Power of the Daleks. Wasn't that just an absolutely great story, guys? It was just brilliant. Worth the 50-year wait. Unlike the return of Dr. Mysterio, which wasn't even worth the 12-month wait.
No.
Wasn't
even worth 60 minutes of my time.
No, it wasn't. That's 60 minutes I will never get back. I could have drank alcohol and got pissed at that during that time. Anyway, please like this video, subscribe to Who Addicts Reviews, and comment in the section below what you guys thought about the return of Dr. Mysterio. And I don't think I can end the video without acknowledging this, but we need to acknowledge the sad passing of Star Wars veteran Carrie Fisher, who played Princess Leia. Our thoughts go out to Carrie Fisher's family and friends at this time, and also her friends from the cast, Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and so on. So yeah.
My thoughts don't go out to this year though.
No.
It's been the
2016
worst
is the one thing I'm glad to see die.
Full on 2017!
2017!
Just make sure Tom Baker's alright.
Yeah. Bubble wrap!
Bubble wrap Tom Baker.
Yes.
Yeah. Bye.
We'll see you in our class overview.
Bye! Yay!